The woman mopping the floors at the Punchline Comedy Club moved like she owned the stage, even though she was just cleaning it. Her name was Patricia Hayes, and while comedians practiced their sets above, she hummed melodies that once filled Broadway theaters. 20 years ago, she'd been the lead in 3 major productions. Tonight, she was invisible to everyone except the janitor's closet, until Katt Williams heard her singing softly to herself and recognized a voice that had once moved thousands to tears. Welcome to Visionary Story. Before we begin this story of forgotten glory, hidden talent, and the music that refuses to die in the human heart, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today? And if you believe stories like this need to be remembered, hit that subscribe button and help us make sure they are. The Punchline Comedy Club in Chicago stayed open until 2 a.m. on weekends, but by 2:30 the last drunk customer had stumbled out, and the final comedian had packed up their disappointment or their triumph. That's when the real work began, when the cleaning crew arrived to restore the venue from the chaos of another night of dreams and desperate laughter. Katt Williams had finished his headlining set 3 hours earlier, but he'd lingered in the green room, working on new material and enjoying the rare quiet that came after a successful show. The club owner had long since gone home, trusting Katt to lock up when he was ready to leave. As he organized his notes and prepared to head back to his hotel, something stopped him cold. Music. Real music. Not the canned background noise from the bar's sound system, which had been turned off hours ago, but something live and achingly beautiful drifting up from somewhere in the building's depths. It was a woman's voice, rich and powerful, singing what sounded like a spiritual or perhaps a Broadway ballad. The acoustics in the old building made it impossible to pinpoint exactly where the sound was coming from, but it seemed to be rising from the basement level where the dressing rooms and storage areas were located. Katt found himself moving toward the sound, drawn by something he couldn't quite name. As a performer, he'd heard thousands of voices over the years, some good, some terrible, most forgettable. But this voice had something different. It had training, yes, but more than that, it had lived experience, the kind of depth that only came from years of professional performance and perhaps years of loss. Following the melody down a narrow staircase, Katt discovered that the basement level of the club was a maze of small rooms, individual dressing rooms for headliners, storage areas for sound equipment, and a laundry facility where costumes and linens were cleaned between shows. The singing was clearer now, and Katt could make out the words, "Summertime," and "The Living is Easy." It was Gershwin, performed with a technical precision and emotional resonance that would have been at home at the Metropolitan Opera. The voice was coming from the women's dressing room at the end of the hallway. The door was slightly ajar, and Katt could see movement inside, someone working while they sang, the kind of unconscious artistry that suggested this was simply how this person moved through the world. He approached quietly, not wanting to interrupt what felt like a private moment of beauty in an otherwise utilitarian space. Through the crack in the door, he could see a woman in her late 50s, wearing the navy blue uniform of the club's cleaning service. She was methodically wiping down mirrors and organizing the makeup station, but her movements had a grace that seemed choreographed, as if she were performing a dance that only she could hear. And that voice, that incredible soaring voice, continued the Gershwin piece with the kind of interpretation that took decades to develop. She wasn't just singing the notes. She was living inside the music, telling a story with every phrase. Katt knocked gently on the door frame, and the singing stopped immediately. The woman turned, her face showing the startled expression of someone who thought they were alone. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, her speaking voice carrying just a hint of the richness he'd heard in her singing. "I didn't know anyone was still in the building. I can be quieter." "Please don't be quieter," Katt said, stepping into the room. "That was absolutely beautiful. I'm Katt Williams. I know who you are," the woman replied with a small smile. "I saw your set tonight from the back of the room during my break. You're very talented. I'm Patricia Hayes." She gestured to her uniform self-consciously. "I clean the dressing rooms and handle laundry for the club." "Patricia," Katt said, studying her face more carefully. There was something familiar about her features, something that nagged at his memory. "Have we met before? You look familiar." Patricia's smile became wistful. "I don't think so. I would remember meeting you. But that voice," Katt pressed. "That's not amateur hour singing. That's professional level performance. Where did you train?" For a moment, Patricia seemed to debate whether to answer honestly. Then perhaps because it was late and the question was asked with genuine interest rather than casual curiosity, she began to speak. Juilliard, she said quietly. Class of '85. Then I did some work off Broadway, eventually moved into touring productions. Katt's eyes widened. Off Broadway. What shows? Dreamgirls. The Color Purple. Ain't Misbehaving. Patricia's voice took on a different quality as she mentioned each title, as if saying the names brought back memories that were both precious and painful. Wait a minute, Katt said, his memory finally clicking into place. Patricia Hayes, you were in the 1998 revival of Dreamgirl. I saw that show. You played Effie White. Patricia's hands stilled on the cleaning supplies she'd been organizing. You saw that production? I saw it 3 times, Katt said with growing excitement. You brought the house down every night. That performance of And I Am Telling You, I've never heard anything like it before or since. Tears began to form in Patricia's eyes. You remember? Remember? Lady, you gave me chills. The entire theater was on their feet. You were magnificent. Katt paused, studying her face more carefully. What happened? Why are you? He gestured around the dressing room, not wanting to finish the question indelicately. Patricia sat down heavily in one of the makeup chairs. Life happened. The industry happened. I got older. The roles got scarcer. And I made some bad financial decisions. Trusted the wrong people with my money. Signed contracts I didn't understand. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, seeing not the cleaning lady but perhaps the performer she used to be. By the time I realized how bad things had gotten, I was broke, blacklisted by some producers because of a dispute over a contract, and too old to start over in a young person's industry. How long have you been working here? 3 years. The club owner, Danny, he's good people. He knew I was having a rough time and offered me work. It's honest pay, and it keeps me around music and performers, even if I'm just watching from the sidelines now. Katt was quiet for a moment, processing the tragedy of what he was hearing. Here was someone who had once commanded stages, who had trained at one of the world's most prestigious performing arts schools, who had given audiences experiences they would remember for the rest of their lives. And now she was cleaning dressing rooms, invisible to the very industry that had once celebrated her. Patricia, he said finally, do you still perform, anywhere? She shook her head. Not really. I sing for myself sometimes. Like tonight. It helps me remember who I used to be. Who you used to be, Katt repeated. Lady, that voice doesn't have an expiration date. What I just heard, that's not something that goes away. That's forever. Patricia smiled sadly. That's kind of you to say, but the business has moved on. There's no place for a 58-year-old has-been in today's entertainment world. Has-been. Katt stood up, his voice taking on the passion he brought to his best comedy routines. Patricia, you just sang Gershwin like an angel. You've got training, experience and a voice that could stop traffic. The only thing you're missing is the right opportunity. Opportunities like that don't come to cleaning ladies, Patricia said gently. They do when the cleaning lady has connections she doesn't know about, Katt replied, pulling out his phone. I'm about to make some call. Over the next hour, as Patricia continued her cleaning routine, she insisted on finishing her work. Katt made a series of phone calls that would change her life. He reached out to producers, venue owners and fellow performers, calling in favors and making introductions. There's a benefit concert next month for the Chicago Theater Restoration Fund, he told Patricia as she finished organizing the last dressing room. High-profile event, lots of industry people, good cause, they need headliner-quality performers. Patricia looked skeptical. Katt, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but no buts, he interrupted. I've already talked to the event coordinator. She's expecting your call tomorrow. This isn't charity. They need talent like yours. And you need a stage worthy of your abilities. But I don't have arrangements, accompaniment, costumes, all handled. I've got a music director who works with me on special projects. He's excited to work with someone with your background. As for costumes, I know people. Patricia stared at him in disbelief. Why would you do this for me? Katt thought about the question seriously before answering. Because 23 years ago, a teenager from Dayton, Ohio spent his birthday money on a ticket to see Dreamgirls. He sat in the nosebleed seats and watched a woman pour her soul out on stage. That performance taught him what it meant to give everything to your art, to hold nothing back. He smiled at the memory. That teenager decided he wanted to be a performer too. He wanted to move people the way Patricia Hayes had moved him. So really, I'm not doing you a favor. I'm paying a debt. 6 months later, Patricia Hayes, now performing under her full name, Patricia Elizabeth Hayes, was featured in a PBS special about Broadway veterans. The benefit concert performance that Katt had arranged had been so well received that it led to other opportunities, recording sessions, cabaret performances, and eventually a small but significant role in a new musical that was being workshopped for a potential Broadway run. She sent Katt a photo from opening night of her cabaret show at a prestigious Chicago venue. In the note she wrote, "You didn't just give me back my career, you reminded me that talent doesn't have an expiration date, and dreams don't die unless we let them. Every night when I step onto a stage, I remember that sometimes all it takes is one person who believes in what you can do instead of what you used to do." Katt kept that photo on his dressing room mirror as a reminder that some of the most important discoveries happen not in talent agencies or audition rooms, but in forgotten corners, where real artists continue to perfect their craft, even when the world has stopped watching. Because the music never really stops, it just waits for someone to listen. So now I ask you, have you ever encountered someone whose current situation didn't match their true abilities? Someone whose talent was hidden by their circumstances, whose dreams had been put aside for survival? Have you been that person yourself, carrying skills and gifts that the world no longer seems to want? Share that story in the comments. Let others know about the hidden artist you've discovered, or the moment when someone finally saw your potential again. Because at Visionary Story, we believe that greatness doesn't disappear. It just goes underground sometimes, waiting for the right person to hear its call and help it find the light again. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, subscribe, share, and help us keep these voices alive. We'll see you in the next one. And until then, remember, if you ever hear someone humming with perfect pitch while they work, maybe you're listening to a star who's just waiting for someone to notice they're still shining.